Only in today's newspaper, look at the headline. Senior cop robbed while buying 2 kilos of coke. Next one. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. One dead. One dead. Another critical after Agricola shooting. Again, doctor, bodyguard, man shot during robbery. One day. Only today. But Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister Ramjatan would come here with a straight face and tell us everything is all right. Mr. Speaker, Guyana Times, January 3rd, 2018. 2 dismissed sugar workers commit suicide. Former Wales sugar worker families call for government support due to impact of closure. Stabrook News, October 11, 2017. Fired sugar workers describe life of desperation. Guyana Times, February 12, 2018. Guyana's rice farmers facing severe hardships. iNews, Guyana 6, 2016. January 6. Hardship facing miners. Government to review gold processing fees. Guyana Times, September 10, 2017. And Mr. Speaker, the best of all, Kemraj Ramjatan, Honorable Member, high unemployment among youths leads to criminality. Guyana Chronicle, June 10, 2017. And this is the Honorable Member that spoke about the great job they're doing for employment. But Mr. Speaker, this is a double standard. This is a double standard. Well, you know what, Mr. Speaker? If we allow this double standard to continue, it will take us right back to where we started in 1992. When we started in 1992, the Honorable Member Moses Nagamutu, Mr. Moses Nagamutu, said to me once, if you know what we went through, how the PPP struggled, how the PPP worked hard, up to when the Honorable Member was in law school. When the Honorable Member was in law school, the Honorable Member said to me, when he heard I was playing a leading role in the PYO, he said, Irfan, you're following the footsteps of your grandmother. There is no better place to be than the People's Progressive Party. You remember those words? Or are you going to deny that? Well, Mr. Speaker, tonight, the Guyanese people would not only see the light, they're feeling the hardship. They're feeling the pain. They're feeling the suffering. And they are feeling the confidence of this no confidence motion. And they are all waiting tonight. They're all waiting tonight so that their misery can come to an end. And that misery would come to an end when we go to election in May 2019. And the People's Progressive Party Civic is returned to government. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister Joe Harmon The Honorable Minister, he said the 10,000 grant was a one-off payment. He said, the Honorable Member said, it was not affordable or unsustainable. Yet this very government cannot find a $10,000 grant, but they can find $4 billion to increase food and beverages by dietary. They can find $1.1 billion on the Durban Park that is used maybe half a time a year. 1.1 billion. Mr. Speaker, the 400 million of interdepartment warrants that was provided by the Ministry of Communities. You remember that, Honorable Member Mr. Bulkan? That they cannot provide any records of this expenditure. 400 million. That is 1.5 billion. Then you have payment of 33.3663 million to one supplier for items that were priced much higher than the other competitors. At a keto breakfast feeding, Mr. Honorable Minister, that take you to 1.7 billion. Overpayment of more than 300 million, that takes you to 2 billion. Mr. Speaker, 410 billion were expended from the Lotto Fund. And guess what, Mr. Speaker? Again, there is no record to verify the expenditure. Mr. Speaker, we are at close to $3 billion. But this government cannot account for that. I'm not even talking about the increase in dietary, but they can't find the $10,000 for the kids, the children of this country. That is a shame. That is incompetence. Mr. Speaker, then of course, Mr. Speaker, I wish to point, Mr. Speaker, some of the members are having a topaz moment. Underperformance of the sugar, rice, forestry, and bauxite. In these three sectors alone, Mr. Speaker, between 2015 and 2018, we lost $46 billion in revenue. Between rice, forestry, bauxite, and sugar, we lost $46 billion in revenue. Mr. Speaker, the underperformance of the four major sectors since 2014 cost the nation in excess of US $463 million in foreign exchange. More than 463 million US in foreign exchange. And this government would like the people to have confidence in them. This government would like the business community to have confidence in them. Oh no, oh no. Mr. Speaker, let us look at the Honorable Minister of Finance. He projected a balance of payment deficit of US $79 million for 2018. This figure has now been readjusted upward to US $181 million. US $101 million more. He made an error that is 128%. 128%. If the Minister of Finance cannot properly project our balance of payment, how can the people of this country have confidence in this government? Mr. Speaker, and let us talk, Mr. Speaker, let us talk about small and medium scale miners. Mr. Speaker, small and medium-scale miners who contribute on an average of in excess of 60% of total gold production. What is happening with them? They are now burdened with hefty tax measures. Tributers tax has increased by 100%. VAT is now instituted on heavy-duty equipment. Fuel prices are soaring. Hinterland roads are deplorable. This, and there is absolutely nothing to help these small and medium-scale miners in Budget 2019. So on behalf of those miners, on behalf of the small and medium-sized miners, I want to express no confidence in this government. We have to end their suffering. We have to end their hardship. And that will come to an end when this government is removed as fast as possible.
Honourable Member, you have 5 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker, then we have the borrowing. Central government. Mr. Speaker, the central government continues to outborrow the private sector. For matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, in 2019, out of the total lending from local commercial bank, borrowing by this government increased by 260%, or $73 billion, whilst borrowing to the private sector was a mere 11% of the total portfolio by the banks, or $24 billion. The government is now outstripping the private sector in borrowing from the local banks. You don't understand this? The government is now in competition with the private sector for scarce resources in the banking sector. What will eventually happen? Interest rates will increase, and when interest rate increase, businesses are going to suffer. And this will take us back to 1992, when the interest rate on commercial loans was close to 40%. Can you remember that? When the interest rate on commercial loans were close to 40%. Mr. Speaker, we don't even need to talk about oil. You know why? The People's Progressive Party Civic grew this economy, build this economy, and expand this economy without oil. Without oil. We didn't need oil. Oil now comes. Oil now comes. You know what? Mr. Speaker, that is all this government is saying. They're thinking oily. Their whole thinking is oily. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? They all talk about clean hands. Every time they stretch out their hands, all I can see is oily hands. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, according to the Consumer Price Index, between 2014 and 2018, prices for food, clothing, and medical and personal care increased by 13.5%, 11.3%, and 9% respectively. This is the reality. You're talking about a 5% and 7% increase for workers, and food increased by 13.5%, clothing 11.3%, medical and personal care 9%. Where is the increase going? How is the increase improving the well-being of the family? How is the increase